Should we be concerned about Chelsea? I think that is the big question coming out of last night's game as we edge closer now to the start of the season where we will face Man City at Stamford Bridge. Chelsea losing 4-2 to Man City last night, and a game that again probably brings up more concerns, more negatives. I even think more kind of fears or doubts about this Chelsea team than even a couple of games ago when things were kind of looked more desperate against Celtic. But this was, of course, more relevant because this is the opponent, not only a Premier League opponent, but an opponent we're going to be facing very soon. So although I don't suspect both starting 11s will be identical, of course not, because there's still some big players to return, especially for Chelsea. It was, I guess, more of a stronger signal because, of course, as every preseason game goes on and you get closer to the end of preseason, you feel like every game ramps up in intensity or pressure or kind of what it means because you're getting close to the serious stuff beginning. But we're going to get into all of that. So the starting lineup and the way this lineup played in the first half was just quite confusing to me. I'll get into why. So Sanchez starting in goal. Reece James playing right back, but I have to say he was playing more right centre back than right back, which is something I discussed with Mono. So yeah, the concerns of me seeing him not bomb down that flank were kind of shown in this game. Tosin Adarabioyo, Levi Colwill, Malo Gusto making up the back four, but Gusto wasn't really playing a conventional left back in this game either. Dewsbury Hall, Fernandes and Caicedo making up a midfield three, but the way Footmob has it down, and I'm sure others as well, Romeo Lavia playing left wing, which of course he wasn't. We'll get into where he was actually playing. Christopher Nkunku playing centre forward and Mykhailo Mudryk playing at right wing. Now, before I get into the positioning, I mean, just the first 5, 6, 7 minutes were just disastrous for Chelsea. I mean, they really were. If there's one thing you don't want to do when you play Man City is pass the ball directly to Erling Haaland inside your own box or around your own box where he has a free look at goal. And we did that twice and we got punished both times. The first time, I think Sanchez has done this before where he plays, I think, not the best ball to one of his centre-backs where his centre-back doesn't really have a lot of time to think about it and makes a panic decision. Haaland pounces. Now, I do want to say with the first one of the things you notice, and you do notice this about American pitches, is the ball really drops dead. So in some ways, I think on a better pitch, the Tosin, I think it was the Tosin pass, would have usually, I think, found Levi Colwill, but instead it found Erling Haaland who pounced on it, and Levi Colwill gives away a penalty, although it had to be retaken. Haaland, of course, converted both and we were 1-0 down, and then literally it felt like they were just showing the replays and already Haaland was in again and he put it past Robert Sanchez. This time nothing to do with Robert Sanchez, a really sloppy pass, and I mean, yeah, just all round that defence all night. And I think around, the shared blame, whether it was Tosin, whether it was even Reece James, whether it was Levi Colwill, just giving the ball away in really bad areas. And of course, Man City punishing us in a severe way, which you expect them to do. And already the game looks a lot different. It doesn't seem to be a game that Chelsea can maybe take some confidence from. It's now trying to find any sort of rhythm from the game. And this is where kind of the more structural questions for me about this game really came into effect. It was funny, I spoke in yesterday's video about this. I may have touched on this before when we sort of decoding Enzo Maresca tactics, was my concern about width, because a lot of Maresca's tactics at Leicester, were very much provided and had to work with width, very wide players. In this game, it was very bizarre because what you had was a situation where Lavia, Dewsbury Hall, Fernandes and Caicedo all started very much central midfielders, and although Mudryk very much was playing as a left winger right winger slash right wing back, which I don't think we've ever seen him really on the right for Chelsea, unless someone can correct me there, which is one problem because I don't think he's great off the left. He certainly wasn't good off the right. We didn't have a left side. We didn't have width, and that had to be provided by Malo Gusto. And I'm not saying that he never provided that. It's just he's not a left winger. He's not a left wing back. I think as more of a conventional left back is obviously more of a suitable role for him down that flank. And because he had barely any help, and Dewsbury Hall kind of wasn't playing off the left, he was kind of playing inwards. He was, it felt like he was playing as an 8, maybe more centrally than that. You had Fernandes who's going to play central. You have Caicedo who's going to play central more on the right side. And then you had Romeo Lavia kind of playing in front of the back 3, back 4. really, I mean, there was such a lack of width from that side. It was very obvious what Chelsea were going to do, and it felt like Chelsea had very little obvious avenues to break City down. I think, compared to the Club America game, yes, a weaker opponent, but Chelsea seemed to use width a lot better in that game. They seemed to, especially with Noni Madueke, who came on later in this game, there seemed to be more penetration, more ability for Chelsea to kind of thread passes together a lot quicker, and the intensity between both teams was severe and stark. And I think also what was proven in this game, like it was against Celtic, was when an opponent really puts on a coordinated, aggressive press against Chelsea, they really struggle. They concede possession very cheaply and they concede goals. And I think that happened again here. Haaland, of course, had to wait for the second half to score his hat-trick, but he did. Oscar Bobb as well. And another case of Chelsea conceding 2 goals very quickly. That's not a great sign that the team isn't responding quickly, and City smelled blood and they got it. I think if you're Enzo Maresca, maybe you're looking at this game and going, our individual errors were what cost us here. And maybe you could look at it and go, if those individual errors aren't there, the game looks very different. Now, sure, it wasn't all City's brilliance, but I do also ponder the profiles of players you're playing. And Madueke is not a great player in left wing, which is his position. He wasn't good at right wing either. I saw he's been liking comments on Instagram of why his teammates should pass to him. He did very little in this game to showcase why he needs to be passed to more. So I have technical problems with Madueke. I just don't think technically he's a very brilliant player. I don't think he makes very good decisions. None of the midfield really, affected change in this game. Caicedo looked very ragged, of course, just back from the Copa America. Enzo Fernandez should have scored. I think Enzo Fernandez was the best of the midfield trio. He missed an open goal, but he did play some nice passes. Dewsbury Hall, again, it was easy to forget he was even playing in this game. Romeo Lavia, I think, was the best, and he came into his zone in the second half. I think he has been one of the stronger performers in this preseason. I think his passing has been quite impressive, and that led some of the Chelsea moves in the second half where we got 2 consolation goals. Defensively, Tosin Adarabioyo had his worst night in a Chelsea shirt so far. Really struggled in this game. Technically, passing wise, I think he was quite dreadful. His decision making was really bad. Robert Sanchez too. I mean, it's not just the fact that Sanchez at times will put his team into trouble. I challenge this kind of preconception and this kind of... Whenever I hear people even criticise Sanchez, it's almost like they have to say at the start, well, I accept that Sanchez is better at the ball at his feet than Petrovic. I just don't think that's true. I think it's a Kepa Mendy situation all over again. You think Sanchez is better at the ball because maybe you've been told that, or maybe you see in some moments where Sanchez does that. Sanchez is a liability. And I don't know how this experiment, and it's weird because Jorgensen didn't play any of this game. How long is this experiment going to go until Maresca and the club have to realise, and I hope that they don't sell Petrovic before deadline day, because then suddenly you've got a scenario where you can maybe put a more suitable, and people scream at me and go, well, you're playing this possession-based system, but do you want to concede goals consistently? Do you want to be punished in the way you were here? And I'm not really interested in playing a possession-based style of football if we're just giving the ball away cheaply all the time, and the player who Maresca deems very important is a major liability to you playing out from the back. And that, unfortunately, is what Robert Sanchez is. And unfortunately, nothing in pre-season so far has eased fears, showed me in any serious capacity that this style of football, because it's maybe more in what should be his kind of more suitable style, makes him any better as a goalkeeper. It simply doesn't. So I want to see Jorgensen starting the next game. I want to see him probably starting the Inter game, and he may as well be starting the Man City game if Petrovic has no future at Chelsea. And the second half, we saw Noni Madueke come on, Raheem, Sterling. I think both of those players had a really nice impact. Sterling and them combining for the first goal, but also, of course, Sterling, really good finish, like scoring against Man City. Let's hope he continues that trend into the season. And Noni too, I think, has had some really positive moments. I think he's been direct. I think he's made some good decisions, but unfortunately at times that has let him down. But it was a good counter-attacking goal from Chelsea, and I think again Romeo Lavia from deep really playing a key role here. I think his passing has been really exciting to see. The other subs were Benoit Badiashile. Mark Guiu obviously came on, Wesley Fofana came on, and Leslie Ugochukwu. I found it quite interesting that there were a lot of players in this game that didn't play at all. I don't know if it's just managing minutes, but no Jorgensen, no Chilwell. That's going to spark questions. No Akapom, no Chukwemeka, no Renato Vega, no Angelo, Breuer, Tyreek George. I've been amazed the lack of minutes that Tyreek George has had this pre-season. I thought he looks really bright against Wrexham. He came on late against Celtic. I think he came on late against Club America. He didn't play at all in this game. And given the problem that Maresca had in the first half of no left wing, I know you can address that with Raheem Sterling, but I want to see more of Tyreek George because Mudryk hasn't impressed me at all. I'd like to see Tyreek George play a little bit more because I still firmly believe he could get substantial minutes this pre-season. But we've got 2 more games and we've got obviously 1 more game in the US against Real Madrid. Again, quality opponents who, if you give them time, if you're lax in defence, you will be punished. There's no 2 ways about it. And then, of course, the Inter Milan game, which is the first game in front of Chelsea fans for Enzo Maresca at Stamford Bridge. And I think that game obviously will be interesting to see if we see any of Cucurella, any of Conor Gallagher if he's still a Chelsea player, any of Cole Palmer, of course, if he's returned as well. But yeah, I can't lie about it. You know, it's not the most important game in the world, but it does signal again Chelsea's struggle here. And also, how long is this going to take? I mean, Enzo has already said that he has to, Chelsea could just kind of have to accept they have to give away cheap goals. I don't really agree with that because I don't think that the players, I don't think Sanchez will just instinctively get better. I don't buy that some of these players will just get better because the tactics with them for a long period of time will transform them as players. I think some players have inbuilt really severe limitations that let you down, and I do think Maresca is going to have to adapt to that very quickly compared to when he was in the Championship, which is, Chelsea need to start winning games. He's going to be under severe pressure if things go wrong very quickly, and that's not me trying to be harsh. That's just we are Chelsea fans and we know how this game works. So I wonder if he adapts to that quickly because I think he needs to. I think he has some good players here who can work within his system. I think Romeo Lavia, Christopher Nkunku, who I think has performed well this pre-season. Mark Guillot too has impressed. I think Reece James, if played in a more serious role for him, I think can obviously be very, very interesting. But, Tosin Adarabioyo really struggling here. We'll see how Wesley Fofana goes and that midfield. What is it going to look like by the time we face Man City properly? So when you still are missing some key players, obviously you need to factor that in. And, Man City too are obviously better than us. There's no 2 ways about it. But this wasn't really their first team. And the ease to which they brushed us aside wasn't great. A lot of that had to do with our own mistakes. But still, it wasn't a great watch. So those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. And I will see you again very soon. All the best.